Hi, and welcome back to the Save It for Parts channel. Who out there remembers broadcast television, watching the tube, the old rabbit ears? I don't, because I grew up on an island in Alaska and we didn't have broadcast TV. We had one of those 10-foot satellite dishes and we could get one channel, but we didn't really get any local stations. Now I've heard there's this exciting new thing that just came out like 10 years ago, digital television, HDTV. I've honestly never messed around with it before. I own a TV here. I actually do have a satellite dish up on the roof, and I can get about one satellite. So kind of the same as my childhood. But I think it's time to fire up the TV, get an antenna, and see what's out there on the airwaves. Now, fortunately, the Antop Antenna Company has sent me something to help out with this. Now, this is a sponsored review, and I got this package in return for making this video, but I think this could be a pretty interesting video for people out there. I might be the only person in the US who hasn't used a digital TV antenna or watched digital TV in 2022. Even though I love technology and radio stuff, I somehow have never gotten around to really watching broadcast television. Looks like we've got two antennas to test out today. First one is this flat panel mini. Wow, we've got an even bigger one here. Gonna have to zoom out on that. So Antop has sent me two products to test out. We've got the AT-406BV, the flat panel mini big boy on the left, and then on the right we've got the AT-400B. And both of these are outdoor or indoor antennas. Let's start with the little guy, the AT-406BV. All right, we've got what looks like a power injector and a power supply for that. We've got a base or stand. We've got our main antenna unit. We've got some coax cable and some mounting hardware. Now it says there's supposed to be an instruction or user manual in here, but there's nothing else in the box. This is all that it came with. Probably because this is an early access test unit they sent me. I'm sure the ones they sell online will have the manual included. Anyway, it looks pretty straightforward. I don't think we need a manual to hook this up. Let's go ahead and connect it to my TV. This seems to be a pretty nice coax cable. It has this built-in waterproof housing around the end in case you want to use the antenna outside. And then the antenna itself has this little flange around the coax connector. Combined with this little rubber thing, I think that's been very well thought out to aid in water resistance. Now I'm going to be using this indoors, at least for the first test. We're just going to hook it up on my desk here and see how many channels we can pull in. Alright, well this is currently getting that PBS satellite. Let's switch over to the antenna.
Easily.
Those 15 seconds into it.
Okay, so just using the AT-406BV indoors on my desk right by the TV here, I'm able to get 41 channels. Now, some of those channels seem to be duplicates, some of them seem to be empty, some of them just have audio, some of them just have video. So it's not necessarily 41 watchable channels, but it's a fairly good selection. Now, I've mentioned in a few videos that my house was built in the 1950s, and whoever built it definitely tried to make it into a bomb shelter. My walls are thick cement with metal in between. There's rebar, there's steel, there's all kinds of stuff in there. There's rooms where you can't even get a cell phone signal. So I'm actually pretty impressed that the Antop antenna can pick things up inside the house here. This house is essentially a Faraday cage, and I've had trouble with reviewing other devices where there's no signal in here. I've had to take things outside to get a good test and get a good signal. That being said, let's take the big boy antenna outside and see if it can get more channels than it does inside the house. Okay, we've moved the big boy up to the roof with some of my other antennas. So with the antenna mounted up on the roof, I'm actually getting all the same channels. I think this is actually good because it means you don't have to mount this thing up on the roof. You can pull in all the same channels just inside your house and inside a crazy radiation-proof house like mine. Now I'm located in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is a fairly major urban area, including Minneapolis and the surrounding suburbs, so we have quite a few channels to choose from. The number and type of channels you get really varies based on where you're located. Okay, so the little AT-406BV did pretty well. Now let's try the AT-400B. Got another mounting base, mounting hardware. So far this is almost identical to the other one. Now we have our very, very large antenna. We have our combination power supply, amplifier, and filter. This feeds power to the unit, it amplifies the signal, and it keeps cell phone signals from interfering with your TV. And this one does include the user manual. Now you might notice a color scheme here. Everything in this package is the white unit. We've got white antenna, white base, and even white coax cord. versus the other one that was all black, including the coax cord. Now, I think you can order either of these models in either black or white, or possibly gray, so there are a few different options if you want to match your color scheme, have it blend into your house, etc. So far, everything on this antenna is very similar to the other one. We have the same little flange around the coax connector, we have the same waterproof protector on the cable, and we have the same base that it clips into. Although, again, everything is in the white color option. Okay, what I thought was a user manual is actually just a little flyer for their other products. However, inside the box for the amplifier kit, there is some paperwork. So it looks like that is actually the manual for this unit. Again, these are very straightforward antennas. You don't really need a manual. You're just connecting some cables and turning on your TV. Another slight difference, the amplifier and power injector in this case uses USB. It comes with this little adapter cable, but theoretically you might be able to power it off your TV if your TV has USB outputs. Okay, so just sitting inside here on my desk, the AT-400B picks up 46 TV stations. That's 5 more stations than the smaller AT-406BV picked up. However, the 400B is pretty huge. It's so big it's off the top of my screen here on the camera. So it is technically an outdoor or indoor antenna, but just with the size of it, I think I'd rather have it up on the roof. Alright, we've got the AT-400 up on the roof, and hey, what do you know, that white color actually does match my house better. So up on the roof, the AT-400B is pulling in 59 local TV stations. That's the most I've seen so far. Now, 1 or 2 of those are duplicates, 1 or 2 are home shopping, there's a couple that are some sort of university experimental station that doesn't necessarily have audio or video, so they're not necessarily all useful, watchable stations, but there's still quite a range of content out there. To make sure I'm getting the most out of the AT-400B, I moved it up a little bit higher and bolted it onto the pipe for my weather satellite receiver. I aimed it at the closest TV towers, but there are still some trees and power lines around me, so I'm sure some of the more distant signals just aren't making it to my house. In this location, the AT-400B still got about 58 to 59 signals, so really no different than where I tested both antennas before. Alright, so what have we learned by using these antennas? Well, I've personally learned that there's a world of free HD TV out there, which I had never experimented with before. It's kind of cool to see what's out there, what's being broadcast, what's available for free. There are movies, there's news, there's weather, there's all kinds of stuff. I've done a bunch of experimenting with free-to-air satellite TV, and honestly, here in the city, there's way more just on the local airwaves than there is on free satellites. So thanks to Antop for helping me learn that. As far as our antennas go, the AT-406BV, or Mini Big Boy, is pretty well suited as an indoor antenna. It works about the same outdoors, so I would say it's not really worth putting it outside unless you really don't want it in your house. It picks up the same number of channels inside as outside. And again, for a house like mine, where getting any kind of signal inside is a challenge, both of these antennas came through with flying colors on the indoor test. Now, the AT-400B on the right is going to be a real performance model between these two antennas. That picks up more channels, both indoor and outdoor, and it really shines up on the roof outside. It brings in some of those marginal channels in better quality, so stuff that would be pixelated or choppy on the little one comes in a little clearer on the AT-400B. Again, that 400B is going to be more suited to installation outside or on your roof, both because of its size and because it performs better outside than it did inside. I would definitely recommend the AT-406B for an apartment, for a smaller house, for somebody that wants to use an antenna indoors, not mess around with climbing up on their roof or running cables. It works just as well indoors, at least in my house, so it would probably work just fine on your TV or up on top of a cabinet. I would recommend the AT-400B for anyone who wants a high-performance antenna mounted up on the roof or outside. Maybe you're out in the countryside, maybe you're somewhere that gets a little less signal strength than here in the city, so you'll want to go with that AT-400B if you want to pull in the most channels. Now, as with all of my reviews, I try to remain fair and honest. I try to point out any downsides that I found with any of the products that I check out, and I couldn't find anything wrong with either one of these. I couldn't find any problems, anything to complain about, except for there was no manual in the box for the 406BV. But again, you don't really need a manual for these, so I wouldn't even call that a problem. On the plus side, they seem to do everything as advertised, at least as far as I can tell. I like the design. I think the waterproofing is well thought out. There are multiple mounting options. You can mount it indoors with these stands, or you can mount it on a pole or other antenna platform. So these are very flexible units. Well, I hope this has been a useful review for people. If you're interested in purchasing one or both of these antennas for yourself, you can find them on Amazon.com or on Antop's website. I will throw some links down in the description to those, and I'll even include a 10% Amazon discount that Antop gave me. So when you buy it on Amazon, you can get 10% off either one of these antennas. Thanks for watching another Save It for Parts gadget review, and we'll see you next time.